Hi everyone, welcome to the Core Vitality Summit. My name is Yvonne Britton and I am joined today by Kim Rowe. Welcome Kim, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Kim, would you mind just to start off just to explain a little bit behind what you do?
Sure. So I call myself a healing mentor. And that term really was given to me by the women that I work with. I began my work actually while I was still healing from chronic illness. I was kind of mentoring other women along the way. And that work has since evolved. I do work with lots of women with chronic illness, but they've also sent me their friends who don't have chronic illness, because what we've realized is that there is a framework for healing that applies to all of our life's struggles. So whether that be illness or divorce or whatever it is, there is a framework for how to heal. And so that's what I do. I help people with that framework.
It's amazing, and the perspective of having had the chronic illness yourself must really help you to be a better mentor for the people that are the ones that are having the chronic illness.
Yeah.
And there's one thing on your webpage that I love. You say, I want you to heal so deeply that your life can't help but respond. I just love those words, the way that
Thank you. That's how I really feel. I think that when I learned that the definition of healing really means wholing, that we have been given whatever experience we are given, whatever struggle we are given, in order to find pieces of ourselves that we need to be more whole. And then our life and our bodies and everything respond to that wholeness. I think it's actually a really empowering way to look at whatever your struggle is.
I've never heard that term before, wholeness or wholing. That's a nice way to look at it. So our topic in the summit is vitality, which is pretty much impacted by everything and anything in our life.
Yep.
Would you, from your own perspective, what factors impact our vitality?
So one of the core issues that I think that people have when they are dealing with illness or lack of vitality is that they think that they need to do something and then they'll be well. And in fact, what I've learned is healing isn't doing something and then you get well. It's this process instead of looking at all of the things that are unresolved in our life. To me, lack of vitality is kind of this being forced to finally deal with your stuff. And people sometimes react negatively to that because they think that I'm blaming them for their illness and that their illness is their fault. And I don't believe that anybody's illness is their fault. But I do think it's your responsibility, if that makes sense. So lots of things happen to us that are not our fault. But because they happen to us, they're still our responsibility to deal with. And loss of vitality, to me, often happens when we are giving energy away to all these unresolved things. So those might be things that you are trying to avoid, things that you haven't said, things that you just ignored for a long time. Those things all still get our energy. And in fact, I would argue that they get more of our energy because we know that we have a struggle that we're not dealing with. And so we're in a disempowered state. So when I find that people really have a lack of vitality, there's almost always something that they need to do that they're not doing. What I call that is the thing is not the thing.
Okay.
And so what I mean by that is whatever you're frustrated by, that's the thing. Look a little deeper to see what the thing is underneath of that. Almost always people have a lack of vitality because they need to leave a job or make a change in their job or make a change in one of their significant relationships or there's something that you are being called to do, and that is actually what is taking a lot of your energy. Does Does that make sense?
It totally does, and it must take energy to keep that undercovered as well, no? To keep it out of your daily life, to keep it covered. We must need to use energy to not to face it, I suppose.
That is exactly right. So as soon as we get the resources, the support, whatever we need to be able to deal with that well, and I would argue that it's now coming up for you because it's ready to be healed. So it's time for you to talk to your boss or your partner or whomever. And as soon as we do that, we're going to find more energy because we're not spending so much energy trying to keep that thing at bay.
Do you think when we come into these situations of maybe crisis, or that there's, that's the call to action to address, so when it's kind of like coming to a peak?
Yes, for sure, because what's happened is now we can no longer find a way to be comfortable in our own old life, in the old way. What's now happened is that illness has come in and said, I know you tried to hobble along for a long time. You can't do that anymore. Now it's ready. Now it's time. The gig is up.
I love that concept actually, and going back to taking responsibility as well, and not blaming. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of tendency to blame external factors as well, and not take the responsibility. So with the first step there, just thinking somebody who's in that situation currently, whether it's a relationship or a job, or I think you're right. It's something just like underlying that is not okay, but you don't quite know what it is. What would be the first? What would be your kind of like first piece of advice to those people? Is it really just awareness of the situation, or what would be the first step?
Yep, that's a really, really great question, Yvonne. So what I'd like to share is a little bit of my own story. So I had Lyme disease, and I was to the point of not functioning. I was like intermittently losing my vision. I was really not able to take care of my 2 young children. I was unable to drive. I had been a speech pathologist and a PhD candidate, and I was down to not even being able to spell to send a basic text message. So it was very low vitality, very not functioning. And the story I kept telling is that my doctors can't figure out what's wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing that I said all the time. And when I finally listened to myself say it, I was like, well, if you know that, Kim, if you know that your doctors can't figure out what's wrong with you, why do you keep expecting them to?
Mm-hmm.
Time to make a different plan. Maybe you need to figure out what's wrong with you, if that makes sense. And so that was my first step in taking responsibility for my own healing, was that I stopped looking to other people to figure it out. And as soon as you take the first step of taking responsibility, there just becomes a cascade of responsibility taking. So then it's like, okay, well, how has this illness been an opportunity for me? Okay, yes, it's taken a lot from me. It surely challenged me in my motherhood. It made me feel like a terrible mother. I missed out on lots of opportunities. There's a million things I could tell you that my illness took from me. But what did it give me? How was my illness a gift? And then I realized, well, it allowed me to evaluate if I really wanted to be in my old career or not anymore. It also, for the first time, forced me to take care of my body, because I was the kind of person that just thought I didn't really need to do that. So there's so many gifts that we can get from our illness, and it's really a cascade once you start taking responsibility that you can start to ask the questions. And not to go too deep, but at the bottom of my question asking, what I ended up figuring out is that what I had tucked away was a lot of trauma from a sexual assault and a rape. That was really underneath my illness. And that was, when I said the thing is not the thing, Lyme disease was very real, and it was very debilitating, but it wasn't actually even the thing. The thing was the sexual assault and the rape that I needed to deal with.
Okay.
So, does that kind of put it in context and make sense?
It does. That's fascinating. Like, and how practically, how long did that take, Kim? Was it something, was part of your process? Was it like, was it slow to be asking yourself those questions and eventually come to that point, or how does it work exactly?
Yeah. I think that one of the other really important things about healing and this holing that we talk about, and where I talk about stop, looking to other people to give you answers, it's this turning in process of getting in touch with your intuition and finding answers inside yourself. That's the holing, because so many of us have lost touch with our inner knowing, right, what we know. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you start to reconnect with that, the path leads you to the answers. So remember when I said healing is not you do something and you're better. It's a process, and I always call it healing with a capital I-N-G. It's a journey. And when you're connected with your own inner knowing, the answers come just as they're meant to along that path, and you just keep following them. I think there is a myth, though, that means it has to take a long time. It really didn't take me a long time to unravel this once I started taking responsibility and stopped giving the care of my health away to my doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started really owning my own inner knowing and following those signs, the answers were coming steady, 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 and I just kept following them. So to me, healing isn't one thing that you do. It's a whole bunch of decision points where you trust yourself to do the right thing, and then the next right thing, and you just keep following those answers.
Actually really powerful what you just said, that there are decision points where you trust yourself to make the decisions. That's really powerful.
Yeah, and I think also the reason why that's powerful is it's a bunch of decision points. People like to put so much weight on, what diet they're going to try or what medication they're going to take or what, I don't know anyone who's ever gotten really well from one thing that they did. That's not how this thing works. And I'm also not a proponent of doing a million things. I actually didn't spend a lot of money, and it actually didn't take me a long time to get well, but it was this process of trusting myself at each decision point to say, is this the treatment that's right for me? Is this the diet that's right for me right now? Okay, wait, do I need to shift my diet now that I'm feeling a little bit better? And so all of these decision points are what add up to healing. It's not this one thing.
Yeah. And so when you realized what your thing was, how did it impact your life? And because obviously your health, but was there an impact in other areas of your life? Was it like opening your eyes and seeing different or something? Or how did that happen?
Yeah, I think everything is different when we look at. That's why I mentioned like divorce or all of life struggles, because I think when we are chronically ill, it's easy to give that so much weight, right, in our lives. But even if we don't have illness, there are struggles. And this is the other bad news, is that even once we get well, there's still going to be struggles. It's not like you're like there's some board that says, oh no, she got over chronic illness, so now her life we're going to make it easy because she already paid her. Yeah. And so to me, what learning to overcome chronic illness is kind of a training ground for building our skills and our toolbox of like, oh my gosh, I know how to deal with some hard stuff. Like, I got this. And so whenever struggles show up for me, I say, okay, what is this an opportunity to heal now? What's going on now? What do I need to look at? What skill am I being asked to cultivate now? So yes, it changes everything in that you don't see struggle as this thing that gets you down, that you feel beat up upon. You're not a victim. you are someone who knows how to overcome. You are empowered. You are somebody who knows how to do hard things. And that changes everything.
Did you feel, so I'm just imagining, like, did you feel, like, did your self-confidence grow then? Do you begin to feel a lot more confident in yourself? Like, truly?
Definitely. Because I think if you tell the story of I'm somebody who's chronically ill, that feels like there's something wrong with me. Instead of being somebody who knows how to heal from chronic illness. So what happened to me after I got well is I was in a very bad car accident, a really bad car accident, car totaled, everything. And a group that I'm in, someone even said, oh, I hope she doesn't, come out of remission, and I hope her Lyme doesn't get reactivated. Because a lot of people have that happen. Once their system gets taken down, they can feel unwell again. And I responded with, no, because the good news is I know how to heal now. So whatever comes my way, I can apply my skill set for how to heal. One of the things that I learned is this phrase. It's called, the wound is the door. The pain is the portal. And so anytime we have a hurt, a struggle, or whatever, that is actually the way through to whatever skill we need. And I think it's so interesting because people who have dealt with chronic illness, and especially a lack of vitality or energy, they don't realize how many skills they are gaining. They're learning so much about nutrition, about how to be in touch with their own body, about how to rest when they need to rest. All of these skills that are going to be so unique to their story that they're going to have to share with the world once they're well again. It's really going to be their superpower. And if you've been someone who had to overcome divorce or, the really painful ending of a relationship, you're going to have a unique skill set about how to, deal with heartache and how to deal with be independent. All of these are building unique skills to us.
Yeah, I can relate to that 100% with the the tools. I've had my own chronic issues probably the past 25 years, or maybe probably since I was a child, to be honest. But I've learned so much about nutrition, about all the different types of diets, about what works, what doesn't work, and I've never thought about that being my own personal superpower. But it's true, yeah. But you then have a lot of information to share with other people. What could work for you and someone else. And my story was a little bit different, where I just managed to feel a lot better actually. And then I discovered, maybe the relationship wasn't quite the thing, so where I needed to be. So I think there was a different, chain of events there. But then I had never thought about that skill set of what you do when you need to be thinking, no, you need to be brave to overcome these things. But I never thought about applying that skill set to something like a divorce as well, That's very interesting.
Yeah, to me, in that situation, the way that I would reframe it is, oh my goodness, how is this an opportunity for healing? I must have needed to learn some kind of skill set around that I can trust myself to do things on my own, that I can learn to really be independent, and that I really only need myself when it comes down to it. Now, I might choose to have a partner someday again, and I might choose, all of these things, but I know that when it comes down to it, I can trust myself, and I can do a lot on my own.
And you've proven that to yourself, by overcoming this chronic illness as well. So you have the proof as well, that you've done that. It's really interesting. Kim, you mentioned about when you do come up across something like this, and you say it forces you to take care of your body. I think that's really interesting, because I think I know personally, it probably took me to get to that stage for me to really look inwards, and now I'm extremely in tune with my body. But how does how does everything else fit in, like eating well, the exercise, whether it's meditation or exercise or sleep, or how do you see it all coming together?
Yep. I love that question. So one of the things that we do in the women that I work with, we think about our energy, our vitality, and how we use energy as a resource. We do an exercise where we actually think about it like finances. So when you are chronically ill or when you're lacking vitality, when life gets you down, you have limited energy resources. You're in debt, right? And so we make a plan. I call it my health savings plan, which is not the kind of health savings plan that we have in the United States, which is where you can save money for expenses. The health savings plan is literally how are you going to save your health. And the health savings plan is just like if you were in financial debt, you have to learn how to save your energy and build your energy up so that you can get out of debt, which means being well. So what we have is what we call our keep, quit, and add list. So the keep list are the necessities, the ways that you must use your energy even though you're in debt. So for example, if you are in debt financially, you still have to pay something for a place to live while you get out of debt. So you're going to still have a rent or a mortgage. You still have to buy food to eat. You know, there are basic living expenses that are non-negotiables, right? So the keep list are things that are non-negotiable that you have to use your energy for. For example, if you're a parent, you're going to have to take care of your children to some degree. Okay? If you're a partner, you're going to have to devote some energy to your marriage. All of these things. But what I don't allow people more than 3 things on their keep list that they're going to be able to genuinely devote energy to while they're healing. Because healing is on the list. It takes up its own spot. It's a non-negotiable. Because if you don't devote energy to healing, how you can get well? Right? So that's for doctor's appointments, naps, whatever it is, cooking healthy food, whatever. That's your keep list. Your quit list is things that you have to quit because they're giving away your energy. It's expendable. Okay? So quit is unhealthy friends, people who don't support you, maybe volunteer positions or, jobs that aren't really, respecting you or paying you well or feeling good to you. Anything that we talked about at the beginning of the call that is taking your energy. So that also means the emotional, spiritual relationship type things. So if there's stuff that you need to deal with, if there's conversations that you need to have, those things go on your quit list. If you need to establish boundaries with family members or whomever, those things go on your quit list. So you have your keep list, which are your non-negotiables, your quit list, which is definitely negotiable and needs to get the heck out of your life. And then last, you have your add. Your add list is how you make a little extra money. So this would be when you decide in real life and financial terms to have a yard sale and to make a little cash, to sell some of your extra stuff, to maybe take a little side job. These are things how you contribute to paying off that debt. Now, in health and wellness terms, these are things that you do to care for yourself. This is self-care. So this is taking a detox bath. That's extra money in your bank. Taking a nap. You get paid to take naps on this plan, right? This is, anything that you do when you make a really nourishing meal, when you wake up in the morning and have that hot lemon water that really supports your adrenals. Any of these things that you do that nourish you, instead of becoming shoulds and have-tos, which I don't like that, because if healing is just like another responsibility thing that you have to do, I think it's a terrible way to approach it. Instead of these are things that you want to do, it's a totally different energy around it. And on that note, what I want to say is that if something doesn't resonate with you, if you're doing it because you're forcing yourself to do it, that is not healing for you. If somebody else tells you to do it and it worked for them, it doesn't mean that it's important for you. What I've noticed in general is that healing is about caretaking and nourishing. And when I do things that are healing for myself, they feel good. It feels good. So I want to have that hot lemon water in the morning. I want to take that detox bath. Now, remember we talked about having to face some things that are difficult. So it doesn't mean that things aren't hard. We still know in our heart of hearts that it's good and that it's the right thing to do and that ultimately it's the right outcome. Healing feels good. So move towards things that feel good.
Okay.
I know I gave you a lot of information right there.
No, I what did you call that whole concept, the keep, quit, add list? What was the name of it?
I call it your health savings plan.
Health savings plan. Okay,
and it's your get out of debt. It's how you get out of debt.
I love the concept. I love the ad list, and it's funny that your last comment, because as you were going through the things, it was thinking of these things that you. Well, first of all, there's probably things that we do that we're not conscious of as well that we are adding to. For me, there's always an element of perfection. I need to do this, and this, and this. But maybe something taking an inventory. I'm already doing 5 things. I'm already doing the bath. I'm already blah blah blah. But I think it's so important what you just said. It has to make you feel good. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, healing is really about reparenting ourselves, mothering ourselves, nourishing ourselves, nurturing ourselves. That's what healing is. And so if we are trying to fit it into some kind of medical protocol of do this checklist 2 times a day for 20 minutes, that is the opposite of what healing looks like. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't certain things that you have to do like that, but to approach all of your healing like that doesn't leave space for all these other things to come up that we talked about too. Like maybe you have a detox bath ritual that you do 3 times a week, and when you create the space for that, that's where you start having some revelations about some of those deeper things that we talked about that are ready to bubble up now.
That's so true. I'm just thinking, because what you might be doing with chocolate, if you're stuffing down your emotions with chocolate or, whatever it could be, you can actually be doing the same thing with healthy things. You could be doing that with a smoothie, no? Or if you're not giving yourself the time. Yeah,
that's right.
I've never thought about it like that. That's a really good way to think about it.
One of the biggest words that I come back to is allowing. I think so many of us that come into chronic illness, all my clients at least, are type A, go-getter, perfectionistic type people. And we have to lay that down if we want to be well. I really think that one of the biggest gifts of being ill is to show you, look, see, you can't do things perfectly because now you can't even get out of bed, so now what? Now your house is going to be a mess. What are you going to do about it? And so it's laying down that perfectionism, right? And so for me, instead of our old go-to is striving, is doing, is getting, right? It's this achieving, performing. All of those words are usually associated with our personalities prior to illness. Illness is the most surrendering experience where you can't strive, you can't get, you can't achieve, right? And I think it's huge. And so now the new word is allowing. What is coming up?
Funny.
Yeah.
No, sorry to interrupt you. That's it's such a coincidence. That's my new word for the past maybe 2 weeks, I have, you know, like there's this thing in my head that it's like make it happen. You know, if I want something, I do, you know, I have a corporate job. I'm a program project manager, so I, you know, I make things happen. So and I, you know, if I need to make it happen, I'll make it happen. I'm like what you just mentioned before, this type A, go get things done. And now I actually have a message for myself, you know, on the pin board that says make it happen. And just the past 2 weeks, I'm like, no, I need to allow these things to happen. I can't, I'm forcing it. Yeah, that's such a coincidence because that's my new word.
And the other thing, this is so good. We could work with this for a while, but one thing I want to say about that. So going from the phrase, make it happen. Okay, it's obviously very goal-driven, whatever it is. It's us doing, right? It's this, like we said, achieving. And we know we can do that. And I'm not saying there aren't going to be times in our lives where we're going to need to call on those aspects of our personalities too. But we've already fully proven we can do that. We know how to make it happen if we need to. Learning the new skill to balance out our personalities, to make us more whole, right? This is the wholing piece. So we already have the piece of make it happen. Now we're rounding out our personalities with, and this is how I would change the phrase, allow whatever to happen. So that also, so not only are we allowing, but instead of us having in mind what is supposed to go down, we are now also staying open to better things, to different things, to a different path, to detours, to all the other good stuff that we hadn't even thought about yet.
Yeah, definitely, because you're kind of like, you're just so focused on one thing, you just don't see anything else. I love how that kind of like concluded where we started as well, talking about the wholeness.
Yep.
Yeah, I absolutely love that concept. Thank you for that. And we're just about out of time, Kim, but I just wanted to ask you just two things briefly. On your webpage, you mentioned, I believe that women need other women like they need air. So can you just comment briefly about that? Because I thought that was a really important concept.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that I've been learning is that I think women are most prone to chronic illness because we know by the numbers chronic illness affects women more than anybody else. I think women are most impacted by chronic illness because our nature is to allow. Our nature is to be creative. Our nature is to be connected to one another. Those are all the archetypes of the feminine. But our cultures, and I think this is true in the UK as well, honors the masculine of achieving performance, getting it done, productivity. All of those things are valued so much more. So us smart women figured that out and said, well, I can do what men can do. I can go out and achieve and get things done. But it's not our true nature. At least it's not our whole true nature. And so I believe that illness is a callback to our femininity as well. And a part of the reason we need other women to do that is because part of our feminine nature, if you think about throughout history until modern times, women were in community with other women most of the day. Women did their work with other women. Women are meant to be social creatures and be together. And what I see is that when women heal together and be in sisterhood with one another, they get the benefit of healing from one another's wounds as well. So I always say, as I heal, you heal. As you heal, I heal. Because our wounds get to be activated and bumped up against one another by sharing, and I get to have a healing from your process too, which actually makes the whole thing go faster. So the other thing we always say is, healing shared is healing multiplied.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And it's true because when you do, it's just so nice to talk to a friend and get things off your chest, you know, and you haven't even solved anything, but sometimes you just share. You're feeling so much just by having, sat down with a friend and explained your situation. It really is an amazing feeling. and also very powerful. So, Kim, where can people find you? Because what do you have going on? Do you have online programs? Do you have groups where you do this type of thing?
Yes. So my search engine optimization is not very good. So if you just type in my name in Google, unfortunately it doesn't come up for a while. But my website is just my name, Kim Rowe, so KIMROWE.com. I'm also on Instagram at Kim Rowe Healing, and that's probably where I'm most active. I really share a lot about my work and my own personal story there and just my thoughts. People are welcome to work with me one-on-one. I have lots of long-distance clients all over the world, and I also do run groups of women called Healing Collectives, and that's a small group of 8 women who, what I call it a course in healing, and we go through, like what I taught you about the health savings plan, that's a prompt that we do together. So there are 7 prompts, and it's all about revisiting the stuff that we've probably been trying to ignore.
Exactly. We spend so much time trying to ignore these things. I'm so grateful to you, Kim, for sharing. That was so much information that you shared with us, so valuable. Thank you so much. Just on a very last note, is there a message that, you know, like I always try to get in like a message of hope at the end of the interview? Yes. Some message for someone who might not quite be there, maybe doesn't even have the awareness right now, and they're just in the middle of, like, whether it's chronic illness or a bad situation, you know, a job, relationship, whatever it is.
Yes. I work with so many women who have overcome chronic illness and who I can honestly say chronic illness was the door for them to really actually find themselves. And all of us are actually grateful now to our illness for how it steered us on the right path. And so the things that I can promise you is that your life can be different, you can feel better, and you can do this and trust yourself again. I know those things for a fact.
Oh, thank you. That's a beautiful way to end the interview. Thank you so much. I've really thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. This was wonderful.